Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem, Oregon. I am Gloria Holland, serving as your celebrant this morning. Reverend Rick Davis is away today, but you may contact him through the UUCS office. We are delighted to have in the pulpit this morning our very good friend, Mark Gallagher. Reverend Gallagher has spoken to this congregation several times in the past, and we're so pleased that he has agreed to be our guest on 4 Sundays this summer. We're absolutely thrilled to be able to invite you all into Hanneman Hall after this service. We're not going to be having food or coffee just yet. I think it might be a kitchen situation, not sure. But won't it be nice to join together again with friends and spend a little time just catching up? If you are a regular here, you are welcome. If you are part of the online audience, you are welcome. If you come only occasionally, you are welcome. And if this is your first time that you've been to a service here, you are welcome. We hope you find here today some peace and comfort and love.
Our gathering hymn today is For All That Is Our Life. It's number 128 in the gray hymnal. Please rise and embody your spirit. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Thank you so much. I wasn't sure if you were going to play another one. Sorry for the delay. As we gather together this morning, let us fully embrace the sacred space created here and hold in our hearts the Unitarian Universalist principle which calls upon us to respect the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And now, please join together in saying our affirmation. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. This comes from W.E.B. Du Bois. The prayer of our souls is a petition for persistence, not for the one good deed or single thought, but deed upon deed and thought upon thought, until day calling unto day shall make a life worth living. And each week we light 3 chalices. The first is for this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem, Oregon. And the second chalice we light for our friends in our partner church in Šimen-Falva, Transylvania, Romania. We light our third chalice for our children and youth in our religious education program. And now, please join us as we sing the flame into life. Education program is held during each service in the RE wing. Children of all ages are invited to attend, and if you're interested in bringing your children, or as in my case, grandchildren, to RE, please contact our RE director, Lily Walker, who will be available to you after the service. And now we have the pleasure of inviting our children and Lily Walker, our RE director, up, and they're going to have a little offering themselves.
Hello, I'd like to call the children down for the time for all ages. Yay, I'm so happy to see you all here this morning. We're going to have so much fun. So we've been doing the rock ritual, right? So I want everyone to pick one rock. Riley, you want to go first? Oh, hi, Maddie. Okay, I'm going to put them up on the... Okay, let's go one at a time. Hold on. So we've got Riley here, and he picked a rock this morning that says magic. Put it on the altar. Zoe, you want to go next? Which one did you get? You got yellow that says happy. Maddie's going to go next. Happy birthday. And Maddie got one that says grow, and it's a green rock. Okay, Scarlett, you want to go next? Scarlett got a blue rock that says imagination. You got happy. Lily? And Lily chose pink, and it says excited. Excited. All right, guys, we're going to go back into the RE department now. We're going to take the children's chalice. You're going to be in charge of carrying that. So, all right, let's go back, guys.
First of all, I just got to say how wonderful it is to be here with you in person, live, face to face. It's been a long time, and I've felt the absence of this. It's great to see you. I often say, you can ask my wife, she's sitting in the back there. I often like to say, to remark upon how much better it is to be getting better after having been ill than it is to have just another day of being well. Right? And we've been ill and we're getting better. And we have moments like this of signal moments of feeling better, being able to do things we weren't able to do. And I'm really relishing it. So as you know, each week we practice cultivating our sense of compassion, building up that dimension of ourselves. And so I invite you now to bring into your mind someone whom you know who is at this time suffering or in distress in some way. Someone you know who's in some sort of distress. And consider the specific nature of their suffering, be it a physical injury or illness, or emotional turmoil, or a difficult situation in which they find themselves. Picture them in that distress and take them into your heart. Regard them with mercy. Bear witness to their suffering and regard them with mercy. And in your imagination, picture loving kindness flowing from your heart to them. Wish them relief from what it is that is burdening them. And as I sweep my hand across the room, you're invited to speak the name of someone that you are holding in compassion this morning. We also practice awakening the gratitude that is in our hearts. So I invite you now to become aware of some things in your life that are deserving of gratitude. And I invite you to hold these things in your mind for a moment. Breathe a few genuine breaths of appreciation as you contemplate these things, knowing that they are not guaranteed to you. And as I sweep my hand, you're invited to speak in a couple of words what is filling your heart with gratitude this morning. Let us keep these qualities of compassion and gratitude alive in our hearts as we go through our days and the coming week.
We have one concern sent in from Ed Kramer. Thank you, Ed. He says that Cecilia Craig has fallen and she has broken her hip. She's had surgery and is now in the Salem Hospital. You are invited to submit a joy or a concern by going online to uusalem.org. Find what is worship, and you'll see where you can submit a joy or a concern. Just type it in, hit submit, and we'll get it.
Our pastoral hymn today is Every Night and Every Morn. It's number 17 in the gray hymnal. You may remain seated. Every night and every morn, some to misery are born. Every morn and every night, some are born to sweet delight. Joy and woe are woven fine, clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silk entwined. It is right, it should be so. We were made for joy and woe, and when this we rightly know, safely through the world we go.
I remember when, as a young man, having recently finished my schooling for the time being, and casting about for a frame of meaning in my life, I had cut loose from the religion of my Catholic upbringing, but had not come upon or developed anything really to replace it. Not that was about as far as I had gotten. So I spent a fair amount of time reading what I would loosely call philosophy, people's reflections on the meaning and opportunities and imperatives of life. In the midst of that, I stumbled upon the readings of Henry David Thoreau. There are a lot of gems of wisdom contained in there, but one which was particularly arresting to me was this bit. He said, "I wish to live deliberately and front only the essential facts of life. I wish to learn what life has to teach and not, when I come to die, discover that I have not lived." It's a poetic version of the old deathbed test, where we imagine being on the edge of death, reflecting back on our life with the urgency of the deathbed. The deathbed fear is somewhat different for each of us. Thoreau here focuses on a particular angle which is haunting for many of us. The dread, not so much of committing errors, not the dread of bemoaning our misfortune, or even grieving the end of it all, but discovering that we have not lived. That is, not really lived, not lived deeply and authentically. That we have perhaps frittered away the stupendously precious opportunity of a human life in clutching for comfort and reputation. Something in me resonated with that. So much of the time we live as though the moments of life are not precious, as though we can go on attending indefinitely to non-essential things, putting off to some other day things which will, when we come to die, be considered paramount. We behave, in other words, as though we are not mortal. Meanwhile, says Nathaniel Brandon, the precious days of my life go by unlived or incompletely lived, while I am telling myself, what does the moment matter when I am here for eternity? I will tell my children I love them tomorrow. I will correct the problems between myself and my spouse sometime in the future. I will begin my most important work next month or next year. Have I not all the time in the world? Perhaps you are saying, wait, I know I'm going to die. I don't deny that. And yes, we do all know that. Cognitively, none of us would say that we expect this life to go on forever. And yet there is a sort of weird doublethink that's normal in our society. We know that our days are limited and that no matter our age, death could actually come at any time, in a year or in 5 minutes. And yet it is normal to live toward an infinite horizon. A kind of doublethink. This poem by Marie Howe really brought me up short. She says, the last time we had dinner in a restaurant with white tablecloths, he leaned forward and took my 2 hands in his hands and said, I'm going to die soon. I want you to know that. And I said, I think I do know. And he said, what surprises me is that you don't. And I said, I do. And he said, what? I said, know that you're going to die. And he said, no, I mean, know that you are. What cuts through our tacit denial of death and awakens us to the urgency of our situation? Well, it's the sense that death is near, the realization that our time is short. There's that famous line by Samuel Johnson, when a man knows he's to be hanged in a fortnight, it concentrates his mind wonderfully. Yes, we all know we're going to die, but the news that we are going to die soon, in other words, that we are really going to die, often comes as a lightning bolt. A real gut-knowing sense of mortality often, though not always, takes us to a new dimension of living, a heightened sense of appreciation and urgency. I remember my college buddy, Ken, 38 years old at the time, in his final months dying of AIDS. He repeatedly expressed to me how, even as his body hurtled toward death, he felt tremendously blessed. Strange, huh? Considerable physical suffering, together with the knowledge that his plans and his relationships and his life were all about to be cut short. How then is it that he could feel tremendously blessed? It's because Ken's final months were lived with a heightened sense of the preciousness of life. He and all those around him were stripped of the comforting but stultifying illusion that we have forever to speak our hearts, forever to come to terms, to live. In the final months of Ken's life, there was no taking for granted. Every day was an unmerited blessing to which there was no sense of entitlement. The condition of AIDS was itself not a blessing, of course, but the awakening out of business as usual to a more urgent love of life most certainly was. Our tacit denial of mortality, our sense of infinite tomorrows, keeps us in the ego identity game, the social conventional order game. We're cruising along, maintaining a certain image of ourselves, maintaining certain situations for ourselves, maintaining a picture of the world and our place in it, or perhaps failing to do that and chafing at it. We give our attention and our concern over to many things that we will not care about from a deathbed perspective. But when we confront and embrace our mortality, there's a tendency to be more alive in the present moment, to experience more vividly, to feel as though there is more to each moment. Just a few days ago, I visited with another friend, Sue, who is brimming with love of life and gratitude in her final weeks of life. When we feel our mortality as a living reality, we're more likely to be more straightforward, more honest, more direct, more willing to take a social risk. We may have thought of ourselves as honest before, but yet realize from this new mortality-embracing perspective that there has been a good measure of hiding, avoiding, deflecting. Perhaps you're familiar with this rightfully legendary poem by Jenny Joseph, which I've edited down a bit. She says, "When I am an old woman, I shall wear purple, with a red hat that doesn't go and doesn't suit me. I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals, and say we have no money for butter. I shall sit down on the pavement when I'm tired, and gobble up samples in shops, and run my stick along the public railings, and make up for the sobriety of my youth. But maybe I should practice a little now, so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when suddenly I am old and start to wear purple." That phrase, "when I am old," I hear that as when I realize that my days are short and life is precious, and that coloring inside the lines and keeping up appearances are not so important after all. I think that's what she means by "when I am old." When she says, "the sobriety of my youth," I hear that as my willingness to live a constrained, joyless life for fear of social disapproval. That's what she's anticipating letting go of. Another thing acute awareness of mortality can bring out is a sense of urgency. Some of you may have seen a film called Bucket List. Two 60-something men meet in a hospital, and they each receive a prognosis of 6 months to a year to live. And they both feel that in some sense life has sort of slipped past them. And they put together a list of things that they want to do before they kick the bucket. Since one of them is a billionaire, financial considerations are not an issue. It's a Hollywood movie, after all. And they travel around having special adventures. What struck me, though, was that the number one thing on their list was witness something truly majestic. Witness something truly majestic. there's something we should all aspire to do in our precious time on this planet. And it's a good item for anybody's bucket list. But when you think about it, it's not necessary to be a billionaire or even a thousandaire, for we are swimming in a sea of majesty. Yes, the Himalayas and the Grand Canyon are magnificent, but so is the night sky. So is the swaying of tree branches in the wind. So is the brush of a cool evening breeze upon the skin. So is the communion of souls when there is a meeting of the eyes. Even just this in-breath, out-breath. Majesty is near at hand. So, what then is lacking? Why would this appear on our bucket list when it's all around us? What is the thing that is lacking? It's the quality of witness. To witness something truly magnificent, we need not go out and find some rare thing that is majestic. What we most need is to awaken our sense of witness. By way of illustration, I remember one time years ago listening to a song that I'd heard many, many times before. It happened to be Layla by Eric Clapton, though it could have been any of 1,000 other songs. I thought Layla was a good song and an interesting song. I had enjoyed listening to it many times, but it was just a song. But this one time I listened to it, somehow my sensibilities opened up and I heard in a new way. Instead of just hearing that familiar song, Layla, one more time, it was a fresh, unique moment. It was the first and only time I would have this experience. And with that heightened sense of urgency, wheresoever it came from, I couldn't say. I heard so many more layers and so much more intricacy to the music. It was such a stupendously rich experience. It became aural magnificence. Oh, all that was going on there, the stupendous creativity and delight embedded therein. The song had not changed from all the other times I had heard it. It was the quality of my witness that had changed. And so what did I take away from that experience? Not the idea that Layla is the best song ever. I took with me a deeper capacity for bearing witness to music. And I took with me an intuition that a similarly fresh quality of experience is probably possible in other dimensions of life as well. And I have found that to be true. Change the quality of witness that I bring to whatever is going on, be it music or something else, and it dramatically changes the quality of the experience itself. Now, what has this to do with mortality? While awakening to the magnificence and sacredness of this experience can happen anytime, it mostly doesn't. But a vivid sense of mortality can galvanize that sense of urgency. It makes us feel, why, it's got to be now, right? I don't have long, it's got to be now. And it turns out Now is the exact time that life actually happens. It never happens someday when I get around to it. It only ever happens right now. Let me tell you about a little imagination exercise I engaged in a while ago. I imagined being told that I had just 1 week to live. So I played out that little fantasy in my mind. I've just been told I have 1 week to live. What came up for me immediately and very strongly was a feeling of gratitude, a sense of tremendous gratitude for having been alive at all, and that it has been a good life. The main thing I thought about wanting to do with my remaining time, short as it was to contact all the people who've been in my life and thank them. Not for doing anything in particular for me, because all that stuff was about to become totally irrelevant, but to thank them just for being part of it all. Now, I don't know if it would be entirely like that for me if I actually got that news. Anxieties might very well intrude. But what my heart first turned to when I imagined having just a week to live was gratitude. And here's my question. Why is it not so when I think I have more than a week to live? Why, when I imagine having only a week to live, I feel tremendous gratitude and love of life? But when I suppose that I might have many years, I spend so much time grousing and complaining. It's like the insight that's expressed in this Eskimo song. Life was wonderful when you stood at your fishing hole on the ice. But was I happy at my fishing hole? No, I was always worried for my little hook in case it never got a bite. Yes, I worried constantly. Life was wonderful when you danced at the feasting house. But did this make me any happier? No, I always worried that I'd forget my song. Yes, I worried constantly. Oh. So I invite you to try this if you're willing, a little imagination exercise. So I invite you to imagine a disembodied spirit or ghost. And you don't have to believe in disembodied spirits or ghosts, it's just an imagination exercise. So just imagine there's a spirit floating out there, vaguely existing in a disembodied way, meaning it isn't in a body. It's not anywhere in particular. It hasn't a body, it isn't anybody. It's vague. And this has gone on for what seems like a long time. And whoever's in charge comes along and says to this spirit, sorry, we don't have an embodied life to offer you yet, but here's the deal. We can let you have 1 day to drop in on this one person's life on a kind of auditing basis. And then they mention your name. This disembodied spirit is going to have a day of living inside you. It's their one special day. They will see, hear, taste, and feel everything that you do. But because they're just auditing, so to speak, they're not going to get to make any decisions about what you will do on that day. You will have an ordinary day oblivious to the presence of this spirit. That guest spirit will just ride along, witnessing the moments of your day. your thoughts, your feelings, the events that occur. Just the one day, that's all they're going to get. So when you wake up in the morning and you're feeling a little stiff and sore, and you wander off and step into a hot shower, how do you suppose that is for the visiting spirit? Oh. And maybe if you end the shower by turning it to cold for a moment. Oh. As you go through one of your moods or reactions during the day, or you're struggling with a problem and cursing and shaking your fist. What is that like for your one day only ride-along witness spirit? Fascinating. Wow, is that rich? And at the end of the day, as you pull down the blankets and climb into bed and begin to drift off towards sleep, imagine how the visiting spirit savors each of those final breaths. Mortality is not something that just lies in our future. It is a feature of our lives here and now. This human body, this life, these relationships, this situation is transitory. Whatever else there might be in the great mystery of the living universe, this life is a brief candle. It's in our nature as human beings to be aware of that, to know it. We live with mortality. And that, my friends, should have us leaning forwards in our seats, wide-eyed and open-hearted, curious as hell, and grateful.
That certainly gave me something to think about. Thank you. It's wonderful. As is true with any organization, UUCS operates within a budget. This congregation has been fortunate in past years to benefit from the generosity of its members and guests. We continue to contribute with money and food to the Marion Polk Food Share, and any donations of food may be left in the little wagon in the foyer. We hope you continue to have a generous heart today. Our Share the Plate recipient for July is the Oregon Black Pioneers, a historical society dedicated to preserving and presenting the experiences of African Americans in Oregon. During this time in our history, it is essential that this history be preserved through exhibitions, public programs, and historical research. The African American story is very much a part of the Oregon story. To donate to Oregon Black Pioneers and to submit your monthly offering to UUCS, please go to uusalem.org or check out your newsletter for more information. You may also leave your offering in the baskets by the door as you exit today. Thank you very much for your kind generosity. Members of UUCS extend support, caring, and kindness to the wider community in many ways. Each week, we light a social justice candle to remind us of this ministry. He got it. Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of the horizons of their vision, we too dream. As we extinguish these chalices, remember to praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, and to bow to the mystery. Thank you, Mark. Just a reminder that you are welcome to gather in the fellowship hall after the service to meet some new folks, to chat with old friends, and possibly to share some thoughts and memories of this past year. Perhaps Reverend Gallagher's message this morning will spark a new conversation. There will not be, sorry to say this, there will not be an online Zoom fellowship gathering today as usual at 2. We will not have it. And we are fortunate to have technology that has allowed us to stay connected to our UUCS community, but for now, this Zoom fellowship has been discontinued. Our building is now open to UUCS teams, and if you're a member of a team or a committee, please contact your team leader to learn more about any specific guidelines for the meetings that you can have now in the building. Everyone is welcome to join a monthly connections group September through June, starting on Zoom. You'll be able to look for a registration link that will be coming soon, I'm sure, in your newsletter. And now please join us for our closing hymn.
Our closing hymn today is Just As Long As I Have Breath. It's number 6 in the gray hymnal. Please rise in body or spirit. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they asked what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
And now, let us join our voices and our spirits as we say our closing words. May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come.